At 11:42, frozen January morning in 1945, a single American bomber climbed above the Pacific. Inside that aircraft, a 22-year-old gunner waited for fighters he had never killed before. He did not know this flight would rewrite bomber warfare. Forever 40 Japanese fighters were already climbing to meet them. Some carried cannons. Some carried nothing but fuel and intent. By noon, Tokyo's sky turned violent. Steel met steel at 30,000 feet, and one bomber fell out of formation. No escort, no engines, no ammunition, no way home. What followed was not a battle, it was a countdown. Every minute another system failed, every mile burned fuel they did not have. Every shadow in the clouds meant death. 14 enemy fighters would fall, two crewmen would not return, and one aircraft would glide out of the sky with nothing left to give. This is not a story about victory, this is a story about endurance, about frozen hands on metal controls, about decisions made with numbers instead of hope. One bomber, one crew, against time, altitude, and silent stay with this story, because survival was never guaranteed, and history almost forgot their names. At 11:42, on January 27, 1945, Staff Sergeant Robert Chen crouched behind the central fire control station of B29 Superfortress Aquare 52. The aircraft was climbing through 28,000 feet above the Pacific ice, forming across the plexiglass, freezing his fingers despite gloves. Chen was 22 years old. 11 combat missions, 0 confirmed kills. His hands gripped the controls, linking him to 4 remote turrets mounted across the fuselage, each containing twin 50 caliber machine guns. The formation moved in precise echelons, spread a dance of steel against the invisible enemy waiting above. Tokyo intelligence had reported 40 Japanese fighters scrambled to intercept the strike. Chen had fired twice over Nagoya, once over the Japanese coast, but had never brought down a plane. The 73rd Bombardment Wing had been flying high-altitude precision missions since November, suffering heavy losses. 31 bombers lost, 34 crews gone. January 14th over Nagoya had been catastrophic. 5 bombers in 20 minutes. The memory of smoke rising over the city burned in every crewman's mind. The Nakajima Ki44, known to Americans as Tojo, by Japanese pilots as Shoki, could climb 2 to 8,000 feet in 8 minutes, carrying for 12 7mm machine guns or 2 20mm cannons. The Japanese had perfected ramming attacks since August 1944. 1 fighter for 1 bomber, an acceptable exchange in desperate mathematics. The Special Air Superiority Unit, based at Narimasu Airfield, practiced these tactics. Their estimated kills at least 3. B-29s with another 7 damaged beyond repair. Aquare 52 carried 6 tons of high explosive bombs bound for Tokyo's port. Visual bombing meant flying straight and level exposed. At 28,000 feet, Chen remembered the odds briefed at 04:00 that morning. 62 bombers, 9 expected not to return, crossing the Japanese coast. At 11:58, the sirens of Tokyo wailed. Pilots sprinted to Ki-44 fighters, already warming up engines, screaming to life. At exactly noon, the first Interceptors lifted off, climbing southeast. Chen spotted the first fighter, a speck, at 12,000 yards, growing larger wings visible, radial engine cowling, distinct. Ki-44. The fighter rolled inverted at 2 feet, diving toward the lead of the formation. 3 more followed. Chen rotated the upper forward turret, tracking the dive, connecting guns. 15 feet away with the sight, a primitive computer, correcting for speed, altitude, forward motion. At 800 yards, the Ki-44 opened fire, traces streaming across the sky. Chen pressed the button, 50 caliber rounds hammered forward, the fighter rolled away, no hits. The formation was fully engaged by 1207 fighters attacking from every angle textbook high. Side passes, diving at 400 miles per hour, braking left or right to avoid. B29 defensive fire ramming attacks were different. Chen's aircraft commander called out one at 2 o'clock high range, 700 yards. Chen led the target. Fired a 3-second burst, armor-piercing, incendiary rounds sparkled across the engine, cowling the Ki-44 exploded smoke, rising first confirmed kill, 2 more fighters maneuvering. Chen's turret pounded a second target, tracers converging the Ki-44 spun out second kill, credited to Aquare 52, the initial point for the bomb run reached. 12:19 straight and level 6 minutes maximum vulnerability, 14 Ki-44s above 3,000 feet higher than the formation at 12:21 for fighters dove. Pairs from 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock high. Chen counted through the sight first pair. Converged tracers from other bombers. Canopy shattered, 2 collided third and fourth kills. Second attacking pair, inside 500 yards, closing fast. Cannon fire visible. Chen engaged the closest the Ki-44, committing to ramming a Square 52's engine burst hits. Sparks 100 yards, the fighter's nose struck number 3 engine metal shrieked. Propeller tore free fuselage, tumbled pieces raining. Fourth kill B29. Yawed right number 3, destroyed number 4, losing oil. Pressure flight engineer. Activated suppression system Aquare 52. Now on to engines. 3 Ki-44s. Dove toward. Crippled bomber. Altitude advantage. Speed advantage. Speed advantage. Chen rotated. Turret first at 1,000 yards. Computer sluggish fired again. Second fighter burst hits wing. Structural failure. 5th kill. Third attacker used chaos for beam attack. 300 yards tail gunner fired last rounds. Structural damage. Ki-44 down 6th. Kill formation descending 16,000 feet. Hydraulic system failing. Rudder jammed. Chen hands numb. -62 degrees. Unpressurized gun station. Frozen mask. Optical sight. Iced over. The 12 Ki-44s. Split 3 groups. Wolfpack tactic. Faint high, attack, low exploit, gaps, damaged bomber systems. Failing, Aquare 52, dropping 10,000 feet. 1 engine running core calculations, fuel estimates, mathematics, impossible. Flight engineer suggested restart number 4 engine, risk 30 minutes destruction, additional thrusts necessary. Aquare 52 accelerated. 170 miles per hour descent, slowed number 4 engine failed, 28 minutes. Later Aquare 52, now relying on single Curtiss-Wright radial number 2 engine, maintaining 32 tons of damaged bomber at 10,000 feet. Navigator, recalculated flight time, 7 hours remaining, distance 900 miles. Fuel critical emergency systems shut down, minimal electrical load, temperature -40, right blister gunner. Losing consciousness, Chen monitoring frozen body, applying own flight suit liner to preserve warmth, crossing international dateline. 1600 hours, 700 miles to Saipan. Fuel for 5 hours, 40 minutes remaining, gap narrowing. Flight engineer transferring all remaining wing fuel to number 2 engine. Dedicated tank altitude, 4,000 feet. Approach Ely field. Field runway lights visible. 15 minutes remaining. Number 2 engine quitting and restarting 3 miles to 1,000 feet. Airspeed 130. B29 glider. Landing asymmetric gear. Aircraft commander. Aiming runway touchdown halfway left wing, impacting sparks. Crew evacuated rear escape hatch. 10 men survived, 2 deceased bomber, total loss structural damage beyond repair. Aquare 52 shot down 14 enemy fighters, 1 crew survived mission. Most kills, single B29 Pacific theater history. After landing Aquare 52 on Ely Field, the surviving crew staggered onto icy tarmac, frost covering their flight suits, faces pale from extreme cold and exhaustion. Sergeant Chen unhooked his gloves, hands trembling as he removed the headset. The airfield was quiet except distant engines and the occasional bark of officers giving orders. Debriefing started immediately. 20 men gathered in a large hangar. Flight commander detailed damage reports. Fuel calculations confirmed the miracle of survival. 7,000 pounds of bombs had been dropped over Tokyo's port docks. Aircraft intelligence officers examined photographs from the mission reconnaissance teams, high-altitude imagery showing docks destroyed, warehouses ablaze. Chen sat slumped against the hangar wall, replaying the moments of the fight in his mind. He could still see the Ki-44 nose cones spinning in explosions, smoke curling up like black serpents. The rear gunner, George Madsen, had nearly frozen solid, managing tail turret. Through 4 ramming attacks, engineer Walter Keane recounted how the remaining engine had sputtered and failed multiple times. Maintenance crews inspected structural damage, wings torn, fuselage, rivets, sheared fuselage, buckled. The Pacific wind cut through the hangar, leaving everyone numb despite the kerosene heaters. Flight surgeon checked vital signs for frostbite, hypothermia, exhaustion. Chen's hands had lost all feeling, fingers swollen red, purple. The debriefing continued. Sergeant Chen detailed each engagement with Ki-44s, each burst fired and result. Intensity of combat had been unmatched. Any previous mission intelligence officer took notes, meticulously verifying kill counts. 14 enemy aircraft down, 1 B-29 heavily damaged. Crew surviving report concluded that this was a singular event in the history of Pacific air operations. Back at the barracks, men stripped off layers of frozen gear, shaking uncontrollably. Hot coffee distributed, everyone silent, thinking about friends lost over Nagoya. 2 weeks prior, Chen wrote a letter to his mother, describing the mission. Cold silence, broken only by scratching of pencil on paper. He knew words could not capture terror, adrenaline, chaos. Next morning, the surviving crew assembled. 4 awards ceremony, medals pinned on uniforms, photographs taken with large format camera, high contrast black and white images. Pressed photographers captured expressions of relief, exhaustion, pride. Chen looked at his reflection in polished helmet. Surface noticing eyes, haunted but alive. Evening descended over Ely Field. Pacific waves crashing against the coast behind hangars. Chen walked to the edge of the runway, staring at horizon, imagining future missions, what they would hold. Memories of ramming attacks, still vivid. Ki-44s diving at impossible speeds, the screams, metal tearing, explosions. Training continued for the next mission, briefing pilots on Japanese interceptor tactics. Strategists predicted more desperate attacks from Nakajima. Units intelligence emphasized ramming maneuvers. Peak effectiveness. Winter 1945. Mechanics repaired other B-29s, patching fuselage, replacing engines, recalculating weight, fuel adjustments. Chen sat in simulator, practicing turret tracking hours at a time, trying to anticipate Ki-44 dive angles. Evenings spent in mess hall, men exchanged stories of survival, some exaggerating, others silent. Fear of next sortie never completely left the crew. Sergeant Chen wrote in logbook, carefully recording each encounter. Flight maneuvers, damage sustained, enemy engagement maps plotted, showing altitude, intercept points. Flight path calculations, probability of survival weeks. Past training, repeated drills, sorties planned meticulously with heavy focus on intercept evasion. Chen understood probability, mathematics of life and death, high-altitude physics, ballistics, speed, relative velocity aircrew briefings. Emphasized teamwork, communication, split-second decision-making. Every man knew ramming attack could come any time. Calculating reaction, angle firing trajectory. Flight drills included gunnery practice on moving targets, mock Ki-44 silhouettes dropped from chase planes. The airfield itself became a hive of activity engines, roaring constant movement, flight crews walking quickly between hangars, maintenance men in heavy coats, oil-stained hands moving parts, replacing burned engines, welding fuselage. The climate, relentless wind, cutting through uniforms, temperature below freezing. Chen practiced firing turret first at stationary target, then moving, then tracking simulated dive. He reviewed every detail of last mission Ki-44, approach speeds, angles, evasive maneuvers, fire control, adjustments. Debriefings included photographic analysis, identifying mistakes, correcting aim, firing angle, timing. Night fell, Ely field lights, flickering fog rolling in thick as winter. Pacific night descended. Chen stayed at edge of runway, writing observations, mental calculations, noting every variable. In battle, other crew members followed similar routines, preparing for next sortie. Flight commanders ensured drills repeated over and over. Anticipation, anxiety rising as new missions planned. Aircraft inspected every rivet, every panel. Engine tested. Under load stress, simulated emergency maneuvers. Crew slept little nights, cold damp bunks, dreaming of combat. Ki-44's diving explosions, fire evening mess, hall quiet, some quietly praying, others quietly eating, thinking about lost friends. Chen reviewed kill logs. 14 enemy aircraft, counted carefully, checking each against film footage. Night exercises included simulated intercept attacks, jet black targets projected against hangar walls, calculating trajectory, speed, time. Every crew member knew survival not guaranteed. Probability calculations still favored few. January 31st. Final briefing completed. Maps laid out intercept points, altitudes, weather conditions, Ki-44 expected positions. Flight engineer detailed mechanical checks, fuel load, adjusted weight distribution. Sergeant Chen went over turret mechanics, calculated firing angles, wind speed, altitude adjustments. Men moved in tight formation toward B29's engines, warming. Frost on wings, freezing again. Another mission loomed. Skies over Japan, dangerous every second. Counted formation, climbed into gray Pacific sky. Horizon, faint outline of clouds below, snow-capped islands above. Chen rotated turrets, scanning horizon, anticipating Ki-44's every movement, every shadow. Enemy aircraft could appear. Mental rehearsal continued, imagining dive angles, ramming tactics, evasive maneuvers, fire control adjustments, timing. The cold air bit through gloves, through flight suits, every inch of exposed skin. Overhead formation, maintaining precise altitude calculations, communications, constant voices, crackling radios. Flight leader called out expected point of intercept. Ki-44's approaching cloud layer. Unknown quantities. Men tense, anticipation visible on faces. Chen adjusted turret sight, calculating lead distance, velocity, trajectory, angle, wind drift. Minutes felt like hours. Anticipation coiled, adrenaline ready for anything. Next attack imminent. Ice forming inside cockpit. Visual markers, frost obscuring sightlines, making calculation more critical. Radio crackled, confirmation from lead bomber, estimated position, enemy intercept closing in. Chen tightened grip gloves, frozen fingers, straining eyes, focused scanning, horizon calculating everything possible. Survey formation left Ely field, climbing steadily above Pacific waves, horizon faint in winter haze. Sergeant Chen rotated turret, scanning cloud layer, searching for Ki-44 silhouettes. Cold air bit exposed skin, frost forming on instruments, visibility reduced. By high altitude fog flight leader, radioed formation, spacing altitude adjustments, anticipation thick in cabin. Every crew member tense muscles, coiled, ready for any sudden dive. Above Japan Islands, snow-capped peaks partially visible below thin fog radar operators tracking possible Ki-44 approach points, calculating speed, distance, altitude. Chen adjusted sight, again lead angle, precise timing, critical survival, first shadow, appeared distant Ki-44, slicing through clouds, wings glinting faintly. Engine roar, deafening, as B29 maintained tight formation, steady climb. Chen called out position to fellow gunners coordinating fields of fire, anti-aircraft flak, visible far below distant city targets. Industrial port area smoke from previous raids. Still curling into grey sky, Ki-44s, diving in sudden coordinated attack splitting formation, forcing evasive maneuvers. Chen's turret swung left, then right, tracking dive angle, calculating closing speed. Enemy aircraft wingman yelled overhead alert. Signal B29 veered sharply to avoid collision adrenaline. Surged crew, gripping controls, hands numb from cold stress high. Tail gunner fired bursts aimed at diving Ki-44, sparks flying across fuselage. Mid-air explosion of enemy aircraft, distant smoke. Trailing into Skychen's mind, calculating probability angles. Trajectory speed, every variable another Ki-44. Appeared from sunglare wings reflecting faint light. Machine guns rattled mid-air, intense concentrated fire bursts, tearing metal air around. Enemy plane, some Ki-44s rammed but failed to hit formation B29. Evasive maneuvers, precise tight bombs in fuselage, secured fuel lines checked. Repeated during maneuvers, high-stress flight engineer shouted over intercom, engine stable, slight vibrations. Felt through fuselage, crew mentally rehearsing previous ramming attack strategies, anticipating next dive. Cloud layer provided cover, partial visibility, difficult to track all attackers. Chun's turret sight fogged, slightly wiped, clear gloved hand. Adjusting optics, enemy pilots, aggressive, calculated timing, every approach, diving in formation. Target B29 formation split. Momentarily, Chen focused on right flank tracking, twin Ki-44. First dive successfully evaded, crew relieved, but tension remained. Palpable over city industrial complex, smoke plumes from prior bombing runs still rising into grey sky. Secondary explosions visible across docks, warehouses. Still burning bright despite black and white imagery. Chen radioed wingman coordinate fire. Control tracking fast, Ki-44, suddenly tracer rounds near tail B29 sparks. Flying gunner firing back, precise calculated bursts, engine vibrations, sudden jolt, fuselage shuddered, another. Ki-44 clipped wingtip, crew shouted alert, minimal panic control. Maintained focus, tight above clouds, partial sun casting long shadows, creating illusion. Ki-44s closer than reality. Chen calculated lead angle, accounting wind drift, altitude, relative velocity, multiple variables. Sudden alert from radar, more approaching. Ki-44s, 9 total estimated, closing rapidly, anti-aircraft flak, below starting fires. Ground targets, distant port, heavily damaged flight leader, called evasive maneuvers. Formation tight descent, then climb, coordinated turret gunners, trained precise. Fire synchronized with flight maneuvers. Chen counted Ki-44s. Down 12 confirmed visual kills, other damaged expected to crash. Crew exhaustion, evident, hands shaking, sweat freezing to cold metal instruments, high altitude oxygen masks providing minimal relief, fatigue evident in every movement. Next dive, Chen anticipated angle, velocity, calculating preemptively, machine gun bursts. Tail gunner fired accurately, hitting fuel tanks. Ki-44 burst into flames, spiraling downwards. Wingman confirmed. Visual kills to more enemy aircraft. Destroyed formation steady now. Regrouping, altitude adjustments, following flight leader signals. Mid-air maneuvers continued. Rapid precision required maximum concentration. Engineer monitoring engines carefully. Noting vibrations, slight overheating in right propeller. Chen wiped fogged visor, adjusting sight, recalculating lead distance, multiple enemy angles. Ground below port complex, smoldering rubble, rising thick smoke into grey sky, occasional civilian. Structures visible, partially destroyed. Factory roofs collapsed. Enemy aircraft retreating back. Cloud cover, regrouping, forming secondary attack points. Crew mentally exhausted, but adrenaline sustaining reactions, calculating speed, angles, fire probability. Flight leader announced minor damages to 3 B-29s, wingtip dented, tail fin scorched, fuselage. Medical officer checked minor injuries, hands, scrapes, frozen fingers, slight frostbite. Chen focused again. Ki-44, approaching left flank, full turret tracking. Every movement, gunfire deafening, inside fuselage, air vibrating with explosions, constant tension, high. Enemy plane dove too steeply, clipped tail gunner's turret, narrowly missed, causing sparks. Chen returned fire. Ki-44, spiraling down, smoke, trailing. Into distance, formation maintained, tight discipline. Additional Ki-44s appeared, horizon distant. Glinting in sunrays, partially obscured by clouds. Formation splitting, slightly coordinating fire coverage, each sector assigned for maximum kill probability. Second dive, Chen's calculations, precise angle firing bursts, enemy aircraft engulfed flames, descending rapidly. Crew relieved but aware, more could appear, any second. Flight leader radioed confirm. Position altitude adjustments, maintained formation. Disciplined precision fuselage groaned under stress, wings flexing slightly, vibrations from near misses felt through metal frame. Radar calculated enemy velocity trajectory, anticipated next approach. Chen adjusted turret accordingly. Cloud cover. Shifting fog rolling, creating intermittent visibility challenges. Tail gunners alert. Machine guns firing continuous bursts, synchronized with evasive maneuvers, multiple targets simultaneously. Crew mentally replaying previous mission flashbacks. Strategies, tactics, adrenaline, coiled ready for anything. Smoke from explosions drifted across sky, creating shifting shadows, confusing visibility. Ki-44s blending intermittently. Chen's eyes, scanning horizon, calculating angles, trajectory, velocity. Lead distance continuously. Flight engineer monitoring engines, reporting minor vibrations, slight overheating, adjusting throttle accordingly. Above city docks, secondary explosions, visible fires spreading across industrial targets, smoke columns rising. Crew coordinating, continuously updating positions. Ki-44 tracking formation. Careful synchronized maneuvers. Tail gunner fired another burst. Ki-44 spiraled down, smoke, trailing, vivid, visible even in black and white. Photography style formation steady. Regrouping, altitude adjustments, following flight leader's precise instructions. Chen continued, calculating lead angles, tracking all potential threats, mentally rehearsing maneuvers. High altitude fatigue, visible crew exhaustion, but discipline. Maintained reaction times, sharp ice forming on instruments, frost on metal surfaces. Additional challenge, visibility, intermittent fog. Flight leader adjusted formation, slight altitude climb. Ki-44 approaching once again, tactical evasion executed. Chen focused preemptively, anticipating dive angle, velocity, trajectory, fire timing, adjusting accordingly. Every second critical survival depended on split-second decisions and coordinated gunfire. Engine vibrations, constant faint shuddering fuselage. responding to maneuvers. Tail gunner firing sporadic bursts, ground smoke, thickening fires, consuming port docks, warehouses, structures collapsing. Crew mentally exhausted. Adrenaline, sustaining reactions, calculating every variable. Probability. Survival. Flight engineer monitored mechanical systems, engine stable vibrations, minor adjustments made. Chen continued tracking Ki-44's left flank turret, rotating constantly, scanning horizon, anticipating next dive. Formation split slightly, drifting clouds below. Pacific gray waves, horizon faint and cold. Sergeant Chen's turret rotated carefully, scanning distant shadows. Ki-44s reappearing from cloud cover, ice forming along fuselage edges, instruments frost. Coating gauges, visibility fluctuating with rolling fog. Flight leader called slight altitude adjustment, maintain formation, tight cohesion, essential for survival. Engine roar, deafening cabin vibrations, constant, keeping every crew member alert and tense. Below, city, industrial port, still smoldering smoke, columns drifting into gray sky. Radar operators tracking enemy positions, calculating distance, velocity, estimated dive points. Chen adjusted turret-led angle, accounting for wind drift, altitude. Relative speed, multiple enemy aircraft. First Ki-44 dive initiated, sudden burst of tracer rounds filling. Sky gunfire deafening inside fuselage, wingman signaled coordinated fire. Chen fired precise, calculated bursts targeting engine and fuselage. Weak points. Tail gunner followed up Ki-44, engulfed in flames. Spiraling down, disappearing into clouds. Formation maneuvered sharply, left avoiding secondary. Ki-44 dive, precise, tight coordination. Critical. Flight engineer monitored engines, slight vibrations increased on right propeller, minor overheating noted. Crew mentally rehearsed previous engagement tactics, anticipating next attack. Cloud cover shifting intermittently, providing partial concealment and sudden exposure for both sides. Another Ki-44 appeared, horizon glinting in sun rays. Chen tracked carefully, turret adjusted accordingly, machine guns rattled, continuous fire. Bursts, enemy aircraft, spiraling smoke trails visible mid-air. Adrenaline surged, crew gripping controls, hands numb from cold, frost forming on leather gloves. Flight leader called evasive maneuvers, coordinated dives, climbs, synchronizing with gunners' fire coverage. Chen counted enemy aircraft, down 11, confirmed visual kills. Others damaged, possibly crashing soon. Tail gunner shouted, alert. Ki-44 approaching from starboard wing. Chen adjusted turret lead, aiming precisely. Tracer rounds streaked through sky sparks. Flying near fuselage, close enough to feel air pressure. Wingman radioed minor damage. Report fuselage dented, tail fin scorched, but flight capable. Crew maintained discipline, tension, high concentration, absolute focus on survival and kills. Ground below, industrial port complex fires still raging, debris scattered, partially collapsed. Structures, secondary explosions visible across docks, warehouses. Thick smoke rising, black and white, realistic aesthetic. Chen's turret sight fogged, slightly wiped clear. Adjusting optics, gloved hand calculating lead distance. Enemy Ki-44s dived. Coordinated tight formations, aiming for B29 wing and tail vulnerable spots. Chen fired preemptively, anticipating trajectory, velocity, angles, continuous bursts hitting fuselage, engines. Another Ki-44 clipped wingtip, narrowly missed, causing sparks. Across fuselage, metal shuddering. Flight leader called regroup, maintained formation. Chen's turret rotated, tracking left flank. Ki-44 mid-air explosions, black smoke curling, distant aircraft engulfed, flames forming chaotic aerial ballet. Crew mentally exhausted, adrenaline sustaining reactions, calculating every variable continuously. High altitude oxygen masks providing minimal relief, cold and fatigue evident on faces. Radar operators tracking Ki-44's speed trajectory. Altitude adjustments, critical. For evasion timing, machine guns firing, synchronized with evasive maneuvers, multiple targets simultaneously. Chen focused smoke from previous explosions drifting across. Sky shadows, confusing visibility. Ki-44's blending, intermittently. Flight engineer. Monitoring engines, reporting minor vibrations, adjusting throttle accordingly. Chen recalculated lead angles. Multiple Ki-44s approaching from sun glare. Altitude differences accounted. Formation steady, regrouping. Altitude adjustments following flight. Leader precise instructions. Crew mentally replayed previous mission strategies. Anticipating next. Ki-44 dive attack. Tail gunner fired accurate burst. Ki-44 spiraled. Down smoke trailing visible, even in black and white style. Wingman confirmed visual. Kill. Chen counted remaining enemies. Recalculated probability. Next attack. Cloud layer shifting, fog rolling, creating intermittent visibility. Challenges, gunners, alert continuously. Every second critical survival depended on split-second decisions. Coordinated gunfire, evasive maneuvers, fuselage groaned under stressed wings. Flexing slightly, vibrations felt throughout metal frame, ice forming on instruments, frost coating cabin surfaces. Additional challenge, visibility, intermittent fog. Chen focused. Preemptively anticipating dive, angle, velocity, trajectory, fire timing, adjusting accordingly. Crew coordination, tight precise communication, vital for survival. Every position assigned coverage sector. Flight engineer monitored mechanical systems engines. Stable, slight adjustments to maintain optimal performance. Above city docks, secondary explosions. Visible fires spreading industrial targets, thick smoke rising. Crew continuously updated positions, tracked all Ki-44s, anticipating attack paths. Probability. Survival. Tail gunner fired another burst. Ki-44 engulfed, flames spiraling, down smoke trailing. Realistic World War II photography aesthetic. Formation steady, regrouping, maintaining altitude tight following flight leader's commands. Chen tracked left flank. Turret rotating, scanning horizon, anticipating next. Ki-44 dive preemptively. High altitude fatigue, visible hands shaking but discipline maintained. Reaction times, sharp. Flight leader adjusted formation. Slight altitude climb, Ki-44 approaching tactical. Evasion executed. Chen focused, adjusting turret, preemptively firing bursts, enemy aircraft spiraling down, smoke trailing. Adrenaline surged, crew gripping controls, cold hands, numb instruments, frost-forming engine vibrations, constant slight shuddering. Fuselage responding to maneuvers. Tail gunner firing sporadic bursts, ground smoke thickening. Fires consuming port docks. Warehouses, partially destroyed structures. Crew mentally exhausted, adrenaline sustaining reactions, calculating every variable. Probability. Survival. Flight engineer monitored mechanical systems engines, stable adjustments. Minor vibrations compensated. Chen tracked multiple Ki-44s, left flank, anticipating. Next dive, adjusting lead angles continuously. B29 limping through thin clouds above grey. Pacific water below horizon, distant and cold. Sergeant Chen's turret, frozen instruments, frost-forming optical sight visibility. Low right blister gunner, slumped unconscious, frostbite and blood pressure. Dropping flight engineer monitored failing hydraulics engines. One remaining, pushing maximum continuous power airframe, groaning wings. Flexing fuselage, shuddering from previous ramming attacks. Crew calculating fuel consumption, remaining time to. Saipan life, hanging by threads. Flight leader, maintaining formation. Above coastline, distant tiny islands, barely visible through mist. Enemy radar tracking, complete formation calculations, made previous attacks now memory. Chen rotated turret scanning. Starboard Ki-44s diving from clouds, approaching precise angles. Tracer rounds arced across sky, metal clanging fuselage. Vibrations deafening inside unpressurized cabin. Tail gunner firing sporadic bursts, only partially effective ammunition, low flight. Engineer adjusted throttle, conserving fuel engines. Critical calculations, every second ice crystals forming on oxygen masks fogging inside. Extreme cold B29 descending slowly, damaged wings, asymmetry causing constant corrections. Flight control. Chen adjusted lead angles, Ki-44 approaching. Firing preemptively, anticipating evasive maneuvers. Secondary explosions, distant port docks, fires. Raging black smoke curling into sky formation, attempting to regroup. Altitude climbing slight left bank. Precision maneuvering, critical crew mentally exhausted, adrenaline maintaining focus reactions. Sharp despite cold fatigue, flight engineer reported, number 2 engine cylinder heads. Red zone temperature fluctuating dangerously. Chen tracked Ki-44. Starboard wing manually turret, frozen hydraulics, sluggish, only physical effort remaining. Enemy fighter spiraled down, trailing smoke. Another engaged tail gunner, minor hits only. Ice forming over electrical systems, intermittent sparks, short circuits. Minor but concerning B29 fuselage. Vibrating continuously from previous impacts, structural stress accumulating. Flight leader called slight altitude adjustment, maintain formation, tight cohesion, survival imperative. Chen fired controlled bursts, Ki-44 spinning, engulfed in flames, disappearing into clouds. Tail gunner shouted, alert Ki-44, approaching low starboard angle. Chen rotated turret immediately. Tracer rounds streaked sky sparks, near fuselage, air vibrating, metallic clang, wingman confirmed. Visual kill, minor fuselage damage only, aircraft, still flight capable, ground below port docks, partially destroyed, fires, consuming warehouses. Debris scattered, realistic World War II aesthetic, secondary explosions, visible black smoke rising, industrial targets. Thick, dense, Chen wiped frost from sight. Gloved hand adjusted targeting, calculation, trajectory, velocity, lead. Ki-44s approaching in coordinated tight formations, aiming for B29 vulnerable points. Chen fired continuous, preemptive bursts, engines sparking. Ki-44 spiraling down smoke, trailing wingman, engaged Ki-44, clipped wingtip sparks. Metal shuddering, minor damage, flight leader called regroup, maneuvering formation. Chen adjusted turret, tracking left flank. Ki-44 mid-air explosions, black smoke curling. Distant aircraft engulfed in flames, chaotic aerial ballet crew, mentally exhausted, adrenaline sustaining reactions, calculating every variable continuously. High altitude oxygen masks providing minimal relief, cold fatigue evident on faces radar. Operators tracking Ki-44s, speed, trajectory, altitude. Adjustment critical for evasive timing. Machine guns, firing synchronized with evasive maneuvers. Multiple targets, simultaneously. Chen focused smoke from previous explosions, drifting across sky. Shadows confusing visibility, Ki-44s blending intermittently. Flight engineer monitored engines, reporting minor vibrations. Adjustments throttle optimal performance. Chen recalculated lead angles, multiple Ki-44s approaching, sun glare, altitude differences. Accounted formation, steady regrouping. Altitude adjustments, following flight leader precise instructions. Crew mentally replayed previous mission strategies. Anticipating next Ki-44 dive attack. Tail gunner fired accurate burst. Ki-44 spiraled down. Smoke trailing, visible in black and white style, wingman confirmed visual kill. Chen counted remaining enemies, recalculated probability next attack. Cloud layer, shifting fog, rolling. Intermittent visibility challenges, Gunners alert continuously every second. Critical survival depended on split-second decisions coordinated. Gunfire, evasive maneuvers, fuselage groaned under stress, wings flexing, vibrations felt throughout metal frame. Ice forming on instruments, frost coating cabin surfaces, additional challenge visibility, intermittent fog. Chen focused preemptively, anticipating dive angle, velocity, trajectory, fire timing, adjusting accordingly. Crew coordination, tight, precise communication, vital for survival, every position assigned coverage sector. Flight engineer monitored mechanical systems, engines, stable, slight adjustments, maintain performance. Above city docks, secondary explosions, visible fires spreading, industrial targets, thick smoke rising. Crew continuously updated positions, tracked all Ki-44s, anticipating attack paths, probability survival. Tail gunner fired another burst, Ki-44 engulfed flames, spiraling down, smoke trailing. Realistic World War II photography, aesthetic formation steady. Regrouping, maintaining altitude, tight following. Flight leader commands, Chen tracked, left flank turret, rotating, scanning horizon, anticipating. Next Ki-44 dive, preemptively. High altitude fatigue, visible hands, shaking but discipline. Maintained reaction times, sharp flight leader, adjusted formation. Slight altitude climb. Ki-44, approaching, tactical evasion, executed. Chen focused, adjusting turret, preemptively firing bursts, enemy aircraft spiraling down, smoke trailing. Adrenaline surged, crew gripping controls, cold hands, numb instruments, frost forming, engine vibrations, constant slight, shuddering fuselage, responding maneuvers. Tail gunner firing sporadic bursts. Ground smoke, thickening fires, consuming port docks, warehouses, partially destroyed structures. Crew mentally exhausted, adrenaline sustaining reactions, calculating every variable, probability survival. Flight engineer monitored mechanical systems, engines stable, adjustments, minor vibrations compensated. Chen tracked multiple Ki-44s left flank, anticipating next dive, adjusting lead angles continuously. B29 descending toward horizon, faint islands approaching. Survival probability, critical calculations, ice forming, inside cabin instruments, malfunction, intermittent sparks, electrical systems, compromised. Crew calculating fuel, remaining distance, time, emergency, landing contingencies, mentally rehearsing every move. Chen wiped frost, optical sight, gloved hand, recalculated trajectory angles for next approaching Ki-44. Tail gunner firing last few rounds. Ki-44 spiraled down. Smoke trailing, visible in black and white. Realism. Formation steady, regrouping, maintaining altitude, following flight leader commands, precise coordination. Flight engineer monitored engines, adjusting throttle, cylinder temperatures fluctuating. Red zone, critical. Chen focused turret, adjusted manually, no hydraulics, remaining pure strength, controlling twin 50s. B29 limping, damaged fuselage, wings flexing, structural stress accumulating every second. Ground below port docks, industrial smoke thick. Rising fires, consuming partially destroyed warehouses, debris. Crew mentally exhausted, adrenaline sustaining reactions, calculating every variable. Probability survival. Ki-44 approaching final dive. Chen anticipated trajectory, velocity, lead, adjusted. Fire control, manually. Tail gunner fired accurate burst. Ki-44 spiraling down, smoke trailing. Realistic World War II photograph aesthetic. B29 limping over jagged grey clouds, frost forming edges, engines straining to maintain altitude. Sergeant Chen gripping twin 50s turret, scanning horizon. Ki-44s diving from clouds. Tail gunner firing sporadic bursts, only partially effective ammunition. Low flight engineer monitoring engines, cylinder heads fluctuating red zone temperature, critical. Cockpit instruments iced over frost forming on dials, visibility reduced, wingmen struggling to maintain formation, wings flexing turbulence from damaged. Fuselage Chen calculating lead angles, velocity trajectory, anticipating evasive maneuvers. Ki-44's diving coordinated, precise aiming, targeting B29 weak points, tracer rounds, streaking sky sparks, near fuselage metal, vibrating. Harshly B29 shuddering. Fuselage groaning, stress, accumulating structural integrity, tested ice forming on oxygen masks, crew, faces pale condensation, fogging inside, extreme cold. Flight leader calling slight altitude adjustment, maintaining formation, tight cohesion, survival. Imperative, Chen fired preemptively, Ki-44. Engulfed flames spiraling down, smoke trailing. Realistic World War II aesthetic, tail gunner shouted alert. Ki-44, approaching low starboard. Chen rotated turret, immediately wingman, engaged Ki-44, clipping wingtip sparks. Metal, shuddering, minor damage, secondary explosions below port docks, fires. Consuming warehouses, black smoke rising thick, crew, mentally exhausted, adrenaline, sustaining reactions. Calculating every variable continuously, flight engineer reported minor. Hydraulic leak adjustment required immediate manual override. Chen tracked multiple Ki-44's left flank, anticipating. Next dive, lead angles, adjusted continuously. Fuselage flexing, wings, trembling, stress. Audible inside cabin vibrations, harsh ice forming. Over electrical systems, intermittent sparks, short circuits, minor concern. Flight leader called regroup, maneuvering formation. Chen adjusted turret tracking, left flank, Ki-44 midair. Explosions, black smoke, curling, distant aircraft engulfed in flames. Chaotic aerial ballet, crew mentally exhausted, adrenaline sustaining reactions, calculating every variable continuously. High-altitude oxygen masks providing minimal relief, cold, fatigue evident on faces. Radar operators tracking Ki-44's speed trajectory. Altitude adjustment critical for evasive timing. Machine guns firing, synchronized with evasive maneuvers, multiple targets. Simultaneously, Chen focused smoke from previous explosions. Drifting across sky shadows, confusing visibility, Ki-44's blending. Intermittently, flight engineer monitored engines, reporting minor vibrations. Adjustments throttle optimal performance. Chen recalculated lead angles, multiple Ki-44's. Approaching sun glare, altitude differences, accounted formation, steady regrouping. Altitude adjustments, following flight leader precise instructions. Crew mentally replayed previous mission strategies, anticipating next Ki-44 dive attack. Tail gunner fired accurate burst. Ki-44 spiraled down, smoke trailing, visible in black and white. Style wingman confirmed visual kill. Chen counted remaining enemies. Recalculated probability, next attack. Cloud layer, shifting fog, rolling, intermittent. Visibility challenges, gunners alert continuously, every second. Critical survival depended on split-second decisions, coordinated gunfire, evasive maneuvers. Fuselage groaned under stress, wings flexing, vibrations felt throughout metal frame. Ice forming on instruments, frost-coating cabin surfaces, additional challenge, visibility intermittent. Fog. Chen focused, preemptively anticipating dive angle, velocity, trajectory, fire timing, adjusting accordingly. Crew coordination, tight, precise. Communication vital for survival, every position, assigned coverage sector, flight engineer, monitored, mechanical. Systems engines stable, slight adjustments, maintain performance, above city docks, secondary explosions. Visible fires spreading, industrial targets, thick smoke, rising. Crew continuously updated positions. tracked all Ki-44s, anticipating attack paths. Probability, survival tail gunner, fired another burst. Ki-44, engulfed flames spiraling. Down smoke trailing realistic World War II photography aesthetic. Formation steady, regrouping, maintaining altitude tight following flight leader commands. Chen tracked. Left flank turret, rotating, scanning horizon, anticipating next Ki-44 dive preemptively. High altitude fatigue, visible hands shaking but discipline. Maintained reaction times, sharp flight leader, adjusted formation, slight altitude climb. Ki-44 approaching. Tactical evasion, executed. Chen, focused, adjusting turret, preemptively firing bursts, enemy aircraft spiraling down, smoke trailing. Adrenaline surged, crew gripping controls, cold hands, numb instruments, frost-forming engine vibrations, constant slight. Shuddering fuselage, responding maneuvers, tail gunner firing sporadic bursts. Ground smoke thickening fires, consuming port docks, warehouses, partially destroyed structures. Crew mentally exhausted, adrenaline sustaining reactions, calculating every variable probability. Survival flight engineer monitored mechanical systems, engines, stable adjustments. Minor vibrations compensated. Chen tracked multiple Ki-44s, left flank, anticipating next dive, adjusting. Lead angles continuously. B29 descending. Toward horizon, faint islands approaching, survival, probability, critical calculations. Ice forming, inside cabin instruments malfunction, intermittent sparks, electrical systems compromised. Crew calculating fuel, remaining distance, time, emergency landing. Contingencies mentally rehearsing every move. Chen wiped frost optical sight gloved hand, recalculated trajectory angles for next approaching Ki-44 tail gunner, firing last few rounds. Ki-44 spiraled down smoke, trailing visible in black and white. Realism, formation, steady, regrouping, maintaining altitude, following flight leader commands, precise coordination. Flight engineer monitored engines, adjusting throttle cylinder temperatures. Fluctuating red zone critical. Chen focused turret, adjusted. Manually no hydraulics, remaining pure strength, controlling twin 50s, B29, limping damaged. Fuselage wings, flexing structural stress, accumulating every second ground below port docks. Industrial smoke, thick rising fires consuming, partially destroyed. Warehouses debris. Crew, mentally exhausted, adrenaline sustaining reactions. Calculating every variable probability. Survival. Ki-44 approaching final dive. Chen anticipated trajectory, velocity, led, adjusted fire control manually. Tail gunner fired. Accurate burst. Ki-44 spiraling down smoke, trailing realistic World War II photograph aesthetic. B29 limping over Pacific horizon, one engine holding desperate flight course. Sergeant Chen gripping twin 50s turret, frost forming optical sight, hands numb. Tail gunner slumped, barely conscious, ammunition depleted. Flight engineer monitoring cylinder. Heads, oil pressure, fluctuating critical. Cabin instruments iced over, visibility reduced, extreme cold, damaged fuselage. Wings flexing, stress audible throughout metal frame. Chen scanning horizon, calculating lead angles, anticipating any last Ki-44. Attack clouds, rolling horizon, blending sky and sea, faint islands, visible approaching distance. B29 descending slowly, altitude critical. Each second survival depended on precise calculation. Crew exhausted, adrenaline sustaining reaction times only. Instinct guiding movements, engine vibrations, constant fuselage groaning under structural stress. Flight leader calling minor altitude adjustments, maintain control. Wingman following precise. Crew silently calculating fuel, remaining emergency landing. Contingency rehearsing every step mentally. Chen rotating turret, scanning horizon, anticipating final enemy approach. Ki-44's tail gunner firing last bursts, target spiraling. Aircraft distance smoke, curling wingman confirming visual kill, Chen counting. Remaining targets, adjusting defensive focus, frost forming oxygen masks. Condensation, fogging inside cabin visibility, further compromised flight engineer, adjusting throttle monitoring cylinder heads. Red zone temperatures, critical ice forming over. Electrical systems, intermittent sparks, short circuits, minimal concern B29. Limping damaged fuselage, wings, trembling vibrations from maneuvers, audible. Crew mentally exhausted, calculating every variable probability survival Ki44s approaching faint. Altitude advantage, Chen tracking preemptively lead angles, adjusted ground below faint outline of Saipan Island, visible horizon closing. Smoke rising from distant fires, city docks, previously bombed, still burning thick flight leader called slight. Course correction, maintaining altitude B29, steady limping. Chen fired sporadic bursts, manually adjusting for no hydraulics, no computer assistance, tail gunner assisted manual fire, last rounds targeting, approaching. Ki44, spiraling down, smoke trailing. Fuselage, creaking stress, accumulating wings, flexing vibration throughout structure. Crew monitoring fuel, remaining engines performing miracles under strain, one engine failing temporarily. Chen adjusting manually, throttle maintaining minimal control. Wingman maintaining formation, keeping distance, avoiding collision damaged aircraft. High altitude, cold biting, frost forming ice on instruments, visibility, intermittent fog crew rehearsing mental calculations. Emergency landing, success probability. Saipan flight engineer reported hydraulic pressure dropping, rudder jammed, minor corrections applied. Chen scanned left and right turret positions, anticipating any remaining enemy aircraft B29 limping below clouds. Ice crystals, fogging optical sights. Frost forming tail gunner, adjusting manually, firing sporadic bursts, Ki44 spiraling. Down smoke, trailing ground approaching rapidly, Saipan Island faint runway, visible horizon closing. Crew exhausted, morale, sustained adrenaline, mental focus paramount. Survival probability, Chen wiped frost optical sight, recalculated trajectory velocity for next approach. Flight engineer, adjusted throttle engine performance, fluctuating critical wingman slightly above maintaining. Formation, distance collision, avoidance. Damaged aircraft B29, descending steadily, engine straining vibrations. Harsh throughout fuselage, crew mentally calculating fuel remaining, estimated flight time, precise tail gunner firing last remaining rounds. Ki44 spiraling down smoke, trailing. Realism, World War II era fuselage. Groaning stress, accumulating wings, flexing vibration throughout structure. Ground approaching rapidly, Saipan visible runway, faintly illuminated, emergency teams. Standing by flight engineer suggested shutting non-essential. Systems conserve engine power, Chen focused turret scanning horizon. Preemptively adjusting for any final enemy aircraft. Cabin ice forming frost coating surfaces, extreme cold wingman following precise commands, flight leader maintaining formation. Limping damaged B29 descending 2,000 feet, tail gunner firing, last burst, Ki44. Spiraling down smoke, trailing crew, calculating final approach, distance. Runway emergency landing, precise Chen, focus turret, manually adjusting aim, last remaining rounds. Expended flight engineer, monitored engines, single functioning cylinder, keeping aircraft. Barely aloft ground approaching 1,500 feet distance runway precise calculations. Critical B29 descending 1,000 feet runway, visible final approach, rudder jammed hydraulic. Failure, one engine only, maintaining flight, Chen bracing turret hands. Shaking frost, forming optical sight, flight engineer, adjusting throttle cylinder temperatures fluctuating, red zone critical. Tail gunner slumped, still conscious, manually firing. Last rounds fuselage, shuddering wings, flexing stress, audible metal, groaning, ground approaching rapidly. 500 feet remaining emergency cruise, ready. Chen scanning final approach, anticipating any minor correction required. B29 touching down runway emergency. Landing successful, albeit damaged. Left main gear collapsed, right gear remained, retracted metal screamed, sparks erupted. Aircraft skidded 1,500 feet. Stopping safely. Emergency crews rushed to assist. All crew evacuated. Rear escape hatch. 10 men survived. 2 casualties. B29 declared total loss, structural damage beyond repair. Mission complete. Sergeant Chen and crew brought home 14 Ki44 kills, 1 B29 destroyed. Extreme cold, frost, ice, exhaustion, injuries all endured. Impossible survival statistics. Defied crew, administered first aid, wounded stabilized as far as possible. Flight engineer documented systems. Chen finally removed frost-covered mask, hands shaking, exhausted, adrenaline still high. Flight leader congratulated surviving crew. Mental relief palpable, silent acknowledgement. Mission completed. Smoke from previous port fires, curling horizon, fading distant explosions. Crew gathered on tarmac. Relief, exhaustion, gratitude, survival, reality setting in. Chen reflected on Journey 14. Enemy aircraft down. B29 barely limping, 1 engine remaining. Historic single mission. Record highest kills for a bomber crew. Pacific Theater. Mission complete. Crew safe, despite impossible odds. 10 men survived. Chen and crew remembered as heroes. Forgotten stories preserved thanks to meticulous records. Audience reflecting on human courage, extreme adversity, World War II, aerial combat. If this story moved, you make sure to hit subscribe for more forgotten World War II stories. B29 silent on runway. Aftermath. Emergency landing crew gathered around, exhausted and frozen. Morning light faintly illuminating twisted wings. Fuselage, bent metal groaning under gravity. Sergeant Chen stepping carefully through frost-coated debris. Surveying damage, mental fatigue, overwhelming. Tail gunner, wrapped in flight suit. Liner still shivering, weak. Pulse monitored by medic. Flight engineer kneeling beside engine number 2 inspecting cylinder heads, fluctuating temperatures, exhausted. Cabin interiors, iced frost, still coating surfaces. Instruments, shattered glass, scattered floor. Crew collectively assessing structural damage. Emergency crews documenting every detail. Meticulously winged spars, bent fuselage, punctured aluminum, sheared from ramming impact. Ki44 debris. Sergeant Chen moving towards rear escape hatch, recalling every second of flight. Anxiety, adrenaline still high. Flight leader giving instructions, ensuring wounded treated. Survival probability maximized. Bombardier absent. Airman lost to cannon fire, remembered silently by remaining crew. Medical team assisting. Right blister gunner, shrapnel wounds stabilized. Morphine unavailable, frozen. Chen checking turret control systems, assessing frost and impact damage. Surviving mechanisms. Hydraulic systems offline. Rudder jammed. Control cables severed. Manual overrides impossible. Crew reflecting on 14 enemy fighters shot down in one mission by 1 bomber, 1 crew. Airframe stress, palpable. Wings slightly flexing as they touch down. Gravity relieved temporarily. Engine number 4 completely failed. Number 3 destroyed. Number 1 damaged. Cylinder head overheating. Number 2 engine remained operational. Single hand miracle keeping aircraft aloft. Entire mission. Sergeant Chen thinking about precision aiming twin 50s turret through frost and frozen oxygen masks. Tail gunner recalled manually firing last rounds. Tracking Ki44 spiraling through tracer fire. Flight engineer reporting temporary stabilization. Systems, aircraft barely functional. Post-landing crew fatigue, extreme cognitive and physical effort, combined exhaustion beyond human norms. Emergency crews photographing aircraft, documenting structural damage, wings, fuselage, rudder engines, B29 frame. Twisted from ramming impacts, Ki-44 debris, embedded aluminum sheared fuselage. Chen walking alongside port wing, recalling final Ki-44 ramming attack engines, failing one engine remaining. Flight engineer checking oil pressure fluctuation number 2. Radial cylinder heads, red zone intermittently wingman, assisting with securing crew survival kits, frostbiting every exposed surface. Emergency medics attending 2 frostbite crew members, wrapped in blankets, wind chill, still sharp Sergeant Chen. Taking moment to breathe, mental processing, 14 confirmed kills, impossible odds, flight leader coordinating debrief crew survival statistics, extreme detail. Every calculation noted, crew silently acknowledging mission accomplishment. Extraordinary survival, Pacific Theater, B29. Wreckage official record, total loss, structural integrity beyond repair. Impossible salvage, Chen and crew, recounting sequence of fighter engagements, strategic firing angles, ramming attacks, tail gunner. Recounting manually adjusting aim without hydraulic assistance tracking. Incoming Ki-44 flight engineer explaining emergency. Measures engine restart, fuel optimization, jettisoning. Auxiliary tanks crew gathered together, emotional relief mingled with mourning lost comrades. Bombardier right, blister gunner, Chen checking, remaining survival equipment, rafts radios, emergency signals, compromised by combat damage. Flight leader, coordinating next steps, evacuation procedures, post-mission critical survival. Sergeant Chen reflecting on mission importance, 14 enemy aircraft, down 1 bomber, completed mission. Crew inspecting minor injuries, first aid, administered frostbite, stabilized hypothermia, mitigated where possible. B29 frame resting runway. Heavily damaged left wing, bent fuselage, dented right wing, partially collapsed engine cowling, ripped number 1. Engine destroyed number 3, engine destroyed number 4, engine seized number 2, engine only functioning, keeping entire airframe. Aloft miracle outcome against impossible probability, Chen walking toward, tail observing. Ki-44 debris still scattered runway, evidence ramming attacks survived, flight engineer demonstrating emergency. Manual controls, flight leader noting every adjustment. Made crew reminiscing, engagement tactics, coordinated defensive firing maneuvers. Tactics against Ki-44 ramming attacks. Fuselage frost coating, optical sights, instruments frozen, extreme cold, sustained over duration, Chen assisting wounded blister. Gunner adjusting blankets, survival prioritized over combat injuries. Emergency team documenting every detail, historical record, meticulous for intelligence and archive purposes. Flight leader briefing, remaining crew, single engine, limping, return. Remarkable survival odds discussed, Sergeant Chen mentally recalling tracer fire angles. Ki-44 spiraling enemy aircraft maneuvers, tracking targets, tail gunner recounting mechanical failures, system. Offline manual fire, relying on instinct experience. 11 previous missions, flight engineer explaining emergency procedures. Implemented number 4 engine restart, temporary success. Crew reflecting on human courage, extreme conditions, 50 below. 0 frostbite injuries, ramming attacks, survived, B29 total. Loss declared, historically remarkable survival, 10 men returned safely to casualties. Chen walking past shattered turret, frost covering mechanism. Ice still glistening under morning light, flight leader congratulating crew, mental fatigue evident. Expressions, stoic, heroic outcome, Pacific Theater. Crew gathered around emergency personnel, acknowledging survival, impossible odds, structural damage, Catastrophic Sergeant Chen, observing runway distant horizon, reflecting survival probability calculation. Extreme circumstances, tail gunner, shivering, adjusting flight suit liner. Frost-covered morphine, inaccessible first aid supplies, frozen flight engineer, documenting final readings. Number 2, engine functioning, oil pressure, fluctuating, critical red. Zone B29, resting silent, runway wings twisted. Fuselage bent, tail section damaged, severe structural failure evident. Chen finally allowed himself moment relief. 14 enemy aircraft destroyed, 1 bomber. Completed mission record. Emergency teams assisting crew evacuate aircraft. Frost still coating interior surfaces, extreme cold lasting hours. Crew reflecting emotional, mental, physical exertion beyond human norm. Pacific Theater, heroic survival flight leader. Briefing intelligence officers. 14 confirmed Ki-44 kills, 1 bomber survived. Extraordinary odds, Chen helping medics stabilize frostbite crew members, blanket wrapped. Monitoring vital signs, critical survival. B29 remains on tarmac, total loss, aircraft beyond repair, wings bent. Fuselage twisted, tail damaged, crew recounting engagements. Ki-44 fighter ramming attacks, manual targeting, no hydraulics, all instinct calculation. Flight engineer noting engine temperature fluctuations, emergency restart measures, fuel conservation. Jettison auxiliary tanks, Sergeant Chen reflecting on mission, extreme courage, human endurance, impossible. Probability, extreme conditions, tail gunner recounting final firing bursts, manual. Aiming Ki-44 spiral, descending tracer streams, extreme cold. Flight leader consolidating mission report. Crew survival statistics, all 10 men returned safely, extraordinary outcome. Chen taking last look. B29 resting runway, evidence of 14 enemy aircraft shot down, ramming attacks, survived, emergency crews. Photographing, documenting every detail, aircraft, structural damage, wings, fuselage, rudder engines. Crew acknowledging mission completed, 10 men survived, 2 casualties, bombardier right, blister gunner. Chen and crew remembered heroes. Pacific Theater. Highest single mission total, B29 combat record. If this story moved you, please hit subscribe and turn on notifications for more forgotten World War II stories.